everybody, and welcome to Pop Council. This is a show where we talk about everything in pop culture. And joining me, as always, is my awesome co-host, Jami Philbrick. And on today's show, we're talking everything from Snake Eyes to Master of the Universe to a new director for Blade, so much more. Stay tuned. Jami, how was your weekend?
Oh, awesome. Had a great time, Wendy. Went to the drive-in theater for the first time in 20 years.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah, only other drive-in movie I've ever seen in my life was Private Parts, Howard Stern's movie when it came out in the 90s.
Oh my God.
And the second one is Snake Eyes. Took the doggy. We had a good time.
Those two couldn't be more different films.
Yeah, well, that's true. We're going to talk about that's true. But we had a great weekend. How was your weekend?
It was really good. Did some hosting work for Sideshow Collectibles. That was good times. Spend some of the weekend watching Masters of the Universe, which we will be getting into in the show later on today. But Jami, as you know, it is not a proper council unless we have a third member. So joining us as today is better watch your step. It's the outlaw, John Rocha. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me back. Excited to be back. So great to see you two. And let's talk pops and let's talk council. Let's get into everything. I'm excited.
Let's pop and council, a little pop. Rocha, we've been doing this for some of our guest panelists coming in. I don't believe I actually asked you this when we first had you on the show, but we asked Tessa Smith last week. So what was the first fandom or like comic book that kind of got you into the whole nerd fandom?
Oh my God, it's The Dark Knight Returns, 1,000%.
Really?
I was, my dad had bought me comics, as a kid, but I never really was like into them until I got to The Dark Knight Returns. That came out at a time when I was a teenager, and I remember there was a comic book shop there in Woodbridge, Virginia, where I used to live there. My mom still lives there, and I drove out there. I was getting the folders and stuff, and then one of the guys there said, "Dark Knight Returns, man, you got to read it." And they had a reading club. So you go sit in the back when you could actually go out as a teenager and sit in the back with strange men in the back of a comic book shop and just read. You could, and then no one thought it was weird. And back then you did. So I sat there and I read the first issue of The Dark Knight Returns, and I was obsessed that comics could do this right at the time when my mind was like opening the door to more of a global approach, more of a political approach. So my mind was stimulated in so many ways. And from that point forward, I started to seek out more comics and go back in time and see comics before and then get obsessed with comics after that. So that was really my way in, if we're talking comic books. But Donner's Superman was the one that opened the door to everything. But it wasn't until I got to The Dark Knight Returns that I understood what comics could really do. Comic books could really do.
Oh my gosh, I love that history so much. Thanks for sharing that with me. I also didn't know about like the reading room in the back of the comic book.
Yeah.
I got in trouble for reading in the comic book store. It's like, you gonna buy that?
Oh no, you had to buy the comics. Then you could go in the back and sit with the guys. Yeah, sit on the stool. And no one talked. Everyone just read sitting on the stool. It was awesome. I loved it.
Imagine if you were that one high energy kid, you kind of like self commentate through your own reading experience. And they're like,
oh yeah,
that was me.
They're probably
that was me.
Those men are probably more strict than any librarian I know because they're immersed in their comic books.
Yes, it was very clear. It was very clear from the beginning. Yes.
Oh man, amazing. So you guys, top of the show, we have a whole bunch of topics built in for today, but this kind of popped up on social media, so I want to talk about it. Can't show you guys the photo because it's not authorized, but as you know, they're currently in production for the Flash movie. Jami and I have been talking about this. We have seen photos of the costume for Supergirl, and now because we know Ben Affleck's Superman and Michael Keaton's Batman are both in this film, so Ben Affleck's Batman have been spotted on set with a really, really sick looking Bat Cycle. And I just do want to say, none of the photos are confirming that is Ben Affleck wearing the suit. It could be a stunt person. It could be him. We don't know. But if you do a little quick search on social media, you will spot that Bat Cycle. And you guys, it is massive. It's dangerous looking. It's got that armored look that I really enjoy seeing in the Ben Affleck's iteration. And it's a whole new suit too. I don't think we've seen him wearing a suit quite like that. So kind of, what is you guys' first, we'll go to Rocha first, your first reaction in seeing these images?
Well, it excites me on so many levels, like Michael Keaton's image did. So I love that they're bringing all this stuff back. I mean, this is the time to be a comic book vet. I thought a few years ago was the time to be a comic book fan. This is the time to be a comic book fan or into superhero stuff, because you get all those Marvel movies, some of the good DC stuff. Certainly, I enjoyed Zack Snyder's Justice League, the version of that, black and white or color, whatever you prefer. And now we're getting multiverses on both sides of the spectrum. So it's exciting to think about all the ways that these actors are going to come back and reprise these roles and have fun with it. This looks like, and I always thought Ben Affleck got the short end of the straw, or the short end of the deal there with being Batfleck, and he didn't get a chance to do his own movie. And I think under a different administration now at Warner Brothers, he'd have killed that movie so well. So to see him, or maybe a stunt person, come in as this character and seeing the videos, I'm crazy excited. And it's such a different kind of bat cycle. It's like this battering ram bat cycle, which totally fits for what Ben Affleck was doing, which is in essence a version of the Dark Knight Returns Batman. So it's exciting.
Yeah, it is. Jami, your thoughts on seeing the bat cycle like in action? There's a couple of shots that people got, like seeing it turning a corner or something.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with John. Like, I'm really excited. I loved Ben Affleck's Batman, and I think he got a short end of the stick there. Yeah. So the opportunity to, if this is his swan song, it's great that he gets to go out in a good way. Maybe it's not. Maybe there'll be a way that Ben Affleck's Batman can appear, if not in films again, maybe HBO Max. Absolutely love the multiverse stuff. As a long time comic book and superhero fan, I remember explaining to a girl in college that I went to see Batman and Robin with, like, okay, well, on Earth 2, the Huntress is the daughter of, in 1997, I'm explaining Earth 1 and Earth 2. Like, even as a kid, I understood, like, the whole multiverse stuff. So the fact that they're embracing it in both DC and Marvel is very exciting. I loved what DC TV did with Crisis on Infinite Earths and bringing in, obviously Brendan Routh was already on Legends, but having him play his version of the Christopher Reeve Superman, and then, even bringing back actors from Birds of Prey and from all these Robert Wool from the Burton Batman. So bringing all these elements in. So the fact that I got to imagine that some studio executives at Warner Brothers were like, oh, this was working pretty good on TV. And they got Ezra over there and that connection. So I'm really excited about what they're doing with the multiverse, having Affleck's Batman sort of anchor what we know from Ezra's Flash and from that DC universe, and then bring it into the old DC universe with Keaton and the new DC universe, possibly with Sasha as Supergirl. So I don't think it was like a news flash this morning to wake up and see, oh, they're shooting with Affleck in the Bat cycle. Like we knew that he was coming, but I think it's just more excitement for us to sort of positively say, like, oh, we're going to get, I think the big question still is, do we get two Batmans together? Or will Affleck's Batman be separate? Will only the Bruce Waynes interact? Like, what will that be? I think is what we're just going to all have to wait with anticipation until the film comes out. But that's the open question for me at this point. Not
Can you imagine the two of them standing together?
But will they be together? Yeah, exactly.
It's going to break the screen if they do it. I'm here for it, though. If they want to do it, I'm here for it. But this movie it's lining up to be like just a lot of different possibilities, because we're playing with the timeline, the paradox, and I think that's what's going to make this movie so interesting. And not that I mind, seeing like leaked set photos and things like that, because as a fan, it's very exciting. But I hope that they're able to keep, just in case there's any other bigger secrets that they have in their back pocket. I hope those aren't revealed. I know it's hard to keep people peeping onto a set, whenever you're not shooting on a soundstage. It's a little bit harder. So, I hope if they have any bigger surprises, they do keep that under wrap. And then kind of going back to the Bat cycle, if we don't get a cool, 3-4 minute chasing, I'm not going to be happy. Yeah, I don't want that thing to go to waste. It looks spectacular, so we're excited for that. And kind of staying in the world of DC here, let's talk about Batgirl. We finally found our Batgirl in Leslie Grace. You and I talked about a little bit this last week on Friday. Yeah. Between the two of us, if the name Leslie Grace sounds familiar to you, she is the actress. You probably saw her in The Heights. She is super talented and beating out all the other actresses, you know, that were vying for the role, which, by the way, all of them also super talented. But congratulations to Leslie Grace. Jamie, your thoughts on Leslie Grace playing Batgirl for the HBO film?
Great choice. She was my top 3 out of the names that were given. I also thought Zoe Deutsch would be very interesting.
Yes.
I really loved her in the second Zombieland. I don't think she gets enough credit for how much she stole every scene in that movie. So I think she would have been a great Barbara Gordon too. But no, I loved In the Heights. I thought she was great. I think, you know, like, I feel like In the Heights only gave us like a small window into what she's capable of doing. So to then be able to take on this character, iconic character, and this project that obviously she's going to be number 1 on the call sheet. She's the title character. I'm really excited to see what she does with it. The only disappointed would be that they're still calling it an HBO Max movie and not a theatrical. But that there may be a lot of other components to that, and maybe that'll change. We don't know. But other than that, I think she's a great choice, and you know, I'm going to be very interested to see who comes in as Commissioner Gordon, because I got to imagine he's a character in the film. It's her father, so
I would hope so.
What are we? Yeah, but you know, what direction are they going to go in that? Go that way. So, you know, very easily it could be Jeffrey Wright, and we could have a connection to the Pattinson Batman. It doesn't seem that it has seemed from the way they've talked about it that this is standalone, that this isn't really connected to anything else, or certainly that Pattinson's Batman is going to be standalone from everything else. So I don't know. I'm guessing it'll be a new Commissioner Gordon, but who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's certainly exciting to finally, you know, have a Batgirl film. I think it's about time. I think they've got the right actor in this. And Rocha, jumping over to you, I've seen just a lot of people speaking out on social media, mostly positive, obviously, but there's a couple of, you know, criticisms saying that why don't they cast the gingers in the role of Batgirl anymore? Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't know if I can speak to the ginger situation, because I don't know if that's, you know, I don't know. I can't speak to that because I'm not a ginger, but I can speak to the idea that I think it's great to see representation happening more and more, especially in the DC universe. Jamie brings up an excellent point. I'm going to circle back to that in just a second. But Leslie Grace, phenomenal in The Heights. And look, everybody in that movie had an emotional storyline to play out as the film went along. You know, I saw people ding it for any number of reasons. Oh, you know, there's not stars in the cast. Well, clearly they were. They just were waiting for other people to cast them in bigger projects. Well, they're not standout songs. No, because there's 10 really great ones. And so it's like all the stuff, the excuses that they used. Oh, the people don't know who they are. Well, now you do. And now clearly these casting directors and these people involved in these high-priced projects, they do as well. Anthony Ramos and Transformers. Now we have, Leslie doing her thing here for Batgirl, and I think this is exciting. And we get a new version of Barbara Gordon. Add that with Sasha Calle as Supergirl. Like, this is becoming a thing, and we're opening the door. Rachel Zegler over on Shazam. So we're opening the door more and more to letting, you know, Latinos walk through the door a little bit more. Yes. And, you know, we're seeing more Black characters being cast. Now it's good to see more Latin characters cast in these traditionally white roles to see what new element they can bring to it. And listen, every studio wants to claim to be magnanimous. If they didn't see money in it, they wouldn't be doing it. Let's put that on the table right now. You know, they're not about stroking your hair. They're about making that money. So the fact that they think this is a viable decision to make, that they can make money doing this, I think is great. Now, what Jamie said is actually true, and it bothers me a little bit, this idea that they're shooting the Blue Beetle, Jaime Reyes, right to HBO Max. This Batgirl, casting who they cast all the way to HBO Max. So to me, it's like you're still not 100% there in putting it on the big screen. And I think we got to get there. And I know Sasha Calle is going to be a Flashpoint, but she's not the center of Flashpoint. Right. So we got to get there. And when we get there, then all this WB talk will have some foundation and validity to it. And I hope we get there very, very soon, because we deserve to be up there. We belong up there. And it's time more and more of these studios and these franchises understand Latinos have been around for a long time, and it's time we got it's time we got our spot on all these franchises overall. So overall, just fantastic news. I'm happy.
Yes. And I do agree with the both of you on that HBO film specific release.
Curious.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that because also we're going to talk about it a little bit later, but the Michael B. Jordan is also being talked about as HBO Max.
Right.
The other thing I wanted to bring up that's very important with the Barbara Gordon arc in the comics is that she does become a disabled character.
Yes.
And so it does seem the Oracle. So it does seem obviously that this is going to be pre that, but that's obviously a very important representation as well. And it seems that that's the direction they're going with the character on the Titans season 3 of Titans. So I think in a way we're going to get a little bit of both. We'll get the later Barbara Gordon as Oracle, the Barbara Gordon before as Batgirl. So I think in that sense, while I'd love for the Oracle story to be part of the Batgirl films, certainly going if it becomes a trilogy, I think that's a good way of sort of splitting the atom right now and giving everyone a little bit of both on HBO Max.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's see. This is a good step forward. So I like to see where they go with this. And again, we're talking about representation here. And Jamie, you brought up the Michael B. Jordan story. So he is set to produce a Black Superman series via his own production company. I believe it's called Outlier Society. He's hired a writer and everything for HBO. So this is different than the other Black Superman story that we had talked about that's under J.J. Abrams. So kind of asking to the both of you, do you think both of these movies can exist at the same time?
I don't.
Okay,
I don't.
Go ahead, Jim.
I think, and this is everything that we're talking about in the last few months when this subject comes up, right? We had Wendy and I love the idea of doing Superman this way and doing it, but there's Val Zod, there's other characters. We don't need to see the Clark Kent, the Kal-El comes from Krypton and becomes Clark Kent's story again. And apparently Michael B. Jordan agrees with us, Wendy, because
he watches the show.
He heard his name being, spouted about with this J.J. Abrams project. And I'm only guessing here, but I'm guessing that he probably had the same feeling as us as like, no more Kal-El. Let's do, there's Val Zod. And so the rumor is that this will be a Val Zod story. And if Michael B. Jordan is really on board, I can't see, it's J.J. Abrams, but I just can't see Warner Brothers going forward with two competing Supermans, especially one that's got the star that everyone wants and is headed in the direction everyone wants, and the other one that's not. So I feel like the J.J. Abrams project, we may hear that go away shortly, but I don't know. John, what do you think?
Maybe they won't do it?
Yeah, or maybe they combine the two. I don't know. I find it hard to believe they're going to do both, though, because it diminishes both, right?
Yes.
You have the TV series competing with the film competing with the TV. Like, I can't imagine them doing it.
It is confusing, and there's a lot of moving parts in this that make it difficult to land on one side or another, right? Because you have Ta-Nehisi Coates writing the J.J. Abrams one, so there is a level of excitement that you're like, okay, I want to see it through a Black point of view, the Clark Kent Lois Lane story. Will Lois Lane be white? Will this be an interracial story, or will she be Black? Like, I want to know will Perry White be Black? Will it be, or will it be a white guy, or will it be someone else? Like these, I have a lot of Jimmy Olsen. Where's Jimmy gonna? We've already seen a Black Jimmy Olsen on Supergirl, so or James Olsen, we'll see where we're going to go with this overall. So that's why you can't be like, yes, I want to see the Michael B. Jordan version. And by the way, he said he has not said he's going to star in it.
Right.
He's executive producing it. So we may not even be arguing that Michael B. Jordan's going to be that character. So Val Zod. So we'll see how that plays out. And they haven't even cast the Clark Kent that they want to use in that Black Superman for J.J. Abrams. So I have two minds. I think it can happen. I don't know if I trust WB to make it happen correctly, looking at their track record over the last few years with the DC properties. Look, they've gotten better. For sure, they've gotten better. And I got no complaints on that. It's just that the track record of announcing projects and these projects actually, coming out don't necessarily happen. And the track record isn't as strong with that. So it depends. If they go the TV route or whatever, the HBO Max route, then I could see that happening. They just can't be out at the same time.
Right.
One's got to come out first for a little bit, then the other one comes out. And what you're doing then is expanding the universe. And just to amend a little bit of what I said earlier, if they go this route with these characters of color like Jaime Reyes and Leslie Grace over there as Batgirl, and then maybe even Michael B. Jordan or someone else coming in to play Val-Zod, and you bring them into the movies down the road, then all of this makes a lot of sense. And you create Crisis on Infinite Earths on screen.
Yes.
If I see the image of Superman holding a dead Supergirl in his hands, or see the image of the Monitor, the Anti-Monitor, all that stuff, there's so much to play with there, then I'm down. I'm down with that. Make that happen. And that can make more sense because you go, okay, that's the theatrical Superman. This is the HBO Max Superman, and then eventually they will meet down the road. Then you make it believable, and that may be what they're doing with the multiverse thing. So I'm trying to create a little bit of space for it, but we'll see.
And they are dealing with 3 Batmans right now. So the idea that
very true.
And you know, I keep seeing rumors of Henry may sign on to stay. So you could deal with 3 Supermans. I mean, it's not unthinkable in the DC universe.
Yeah.
How many Bizarros are we going to get?
That's the question.
But honestly, Rocha, what you said about like Crisis on Infinite Earth, that really excited me because I would love to see them walk down that road. And it takes a lot of planning. So maybe these are the seeds we're seeing it being planted right now, that they have a plan. They've worked it out. Maybe, you know, who knows, JJ's like pitching the idea and they all come together, like sitting in the room and saying like, who knows, like these actors and directors are texting each other. You know, like, hey, I heard about your project. I heard about your project. What if we did this, though? And then you go back to WB and, you know, when you have producers and directors like J.J. Abrams, Michael B. Jordan, you know, who's passionate about stories like these, and the source material can allow us to go there anyways, why not do it? You know, us as fans, we're going to eat it up.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that'll be that. Well, we're going to cross universes right now. We're going to jump from DC into Marvel and talk about Black Panther 2, Wakanda Forever. We've got some casting news. Michaela Cole has been, she's been announced to join the ensemble cast. Now, her exact role and plot details and all of that, completely locked, completely secretive, as Marvel do, which is totally okay. But she's joined them at Pinewood Studios where they're filming. How excited are you for her to join the ensemble cast of Wakanda Forever, seeing that some of her credits include I May Destroy You. She's an Emmy-nominated writer, and she also looks like a goddess. I just want to add that in there. Rocha, your thoughts on Michaela Cole joining the cast?
Listen, they should all be very, very thankful that a woman this talented and able is being a part of this cast, and especially if she's going to be coming in to play the role, which is the rumor of Storm. And remember, Storm had a relationship with T'Challa in the comics. What they may be doing here is recasting or looking at who they want to bring in to be Black Panther, and they may explore that romance situation down the road. But right off the bat, introducing her, I think if they go off the Ta-Nehisi Coates run, she's an African goddess. She's primarily and first, and then also a mutant. So we're opening the door to mutants. We're opening the door to a new interpretation of Storm. And look, I don't want to say anything too negative, but I have not been happy with any of the interpretations of Storm that I've seen on screen. Nothing against the actresses. I think the overall approach to the character hasn't been spot on. She has been the leader of the X-Men. She has been this powerful energy and force, and I always felt they made a mistake not casting Angela Bassett as the first Storm over Halle
my
Berry.
Gosh, can you imagine? It's okay. She's being queen of Wakanda, so it's fine.
She was attached. She was attached at one point. Her name was attached. Yep.
Her power as Storm at that age, she would have brought such a regalness to her. And ironically, she's the queen of Wakanda there with Ramunda. And so there was a chance here. So now you move into this other phase, and I like this idea. I like that she's coming into this. It adds yet another powerful presence to this cast. And so I'm very, very curious when we're going to start to hear the details of what this story is all about, because there's also rumors of Namor. There's rumors that Letitia Wright might be recast because of some of her comments. So there's a lot of moving pieces. Once they all settle down, I'm ready to get excited to see Black Panther 2 and see what we're going to get from Wakanda Forever.
I love that. Jamie, kind of going off the Storm possibility there, would you be happy if we get to see mutants this soon?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially the way John was saying it. I hadn't heard the Storm rumor yet. I think that's great. I mean, she married T'Challa in the comics. So
yes, exactly.
To me, she's as much a Black Panther character as she is a mutant X-Men character. So for them to kind of roll it out and to sort of, the way John was saying, kind of slowly introduce her as this very powerful character. We don't need to know she's a mutant yet. Right. And then they can kind of slow roll mutants later. I mean, I don't expect there to be an announcement in a couple of years, like 2024 X-Men the movie. I think we're going to see mutants in the MCU long before an X-Men franchise happens in the MCU. Although Deadpool could be a conduit to that as well. So we don't really know what they're planning with that. But bring on the mutants sooner and later. Just because I want to see Wendy's mind blow on camera here. The rest of the cast that I remember that was attached, unofficially attached to an X-Men movie in 1998, Angela Bassett as Storm, Ed Norton as Cyclops, Julianne Moore as Jean Grey.
Wow.
Okay.
And Russell Crowe as Wolverine. And the only actor who actually did get it was Patrick Stewart, was always Professor X.
Oh my God.
Was Professor X. I literally remember reading that in the Hollywood Reporter in 1998 when I first moved here. I was like, wow. And no one knew what X-Men was then, other than probably the three of us. That was that doesn't mean that anyone ever signed on or anything, but that was the rumored cast in the early days. I don't even think Singer was involved with the film at that point. But yeah, I wanted to see
that really shifted.
That's the look on Wendy's face I wanted to see.
I'm down to see Julianne Moore play Jean Grey.
This would have been Jurassic Park Boogie Nights Julianne Moore. That era.
It's a good choice. It's a good choice for Jean Grey.
Oh, man. Yeah. When did the first X-Men come out?
2000.
2000, yeah.
Oh, it's so possible. Although, it's funny. I'm trying to think back to how my reaction would have been to hear about Russell Crowe playing Wolverine versus Hugh Jackman. Because, for me, when I first heard Hugh Jackman, I was like, oh, he's too tall.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and
that was the first
Doug
thing.
Ray Scott, who plays Batgirl's dad or Batwoman's dad on Batwoman, so Russell passed for Gladiator, recommended Hugh Jackman. They went with Doug Ray Scott. Doug Ray Scott was playing the villain in Mission Impossible 2. Went over and he had to bow out, and they were already in production when they cast Jackman.
Yep.
And now Jackman is playing Wolverine forever.
Yeah. I mean, what a lucky accident.
I think he'll be back in the MCU as Wolverine too.
Well, there are all kinds of
a cameo.
Yeah, right. Well, look at the social media stuff. Even Boss Logic put up a graphic last night. 4 claw strikes, over the Avengers logo. I'm like, what the hell is this? And even Hugh Jackman put up his claws again the other day on his Instagram. I'm like,
he did.
Messing around. Yeah.
Because there's talk that he could end up in Deadpool, but I'm also hearing a Hulk Wolverine. People really want the Hulk versus Wolverine live action movie. So,
dude, oh my gosh.
I could see him coming back, and for more than a cameo, but I could see him coming back and doing a couple more now that he's had some distance.
That's my movie. Don't mess around.
So good.
There it is.
It's true.
He's gone. He's gone. If you're
his claw didn't come up at the end.
Apart.
Okay. Let it be.
It's true.
Although I honestly, sorry, Rocha, but I would not hate it if he donned the claws one more time.
Oh, I know.
For a cameo in Deadpool. Because him and Ryan are such good friends.
Yes.
And they could do a multiverse thing. It's a different version of what we don't have to change Logan at all.
What if we get Doug Ray Scott finally as an alternate universe Logan? That could be fun.
Is that why he left Batwoman?
That could be.
He just left Batwoman.
See?
He's got to be in the yellow and blue suit, though.
Yes.
Agreed.
1,000% agreed.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Guys, we're writing movies right now, Hollywood. I hope you're paying attention. Well, directors we are not, but who has a director now is the Blade movie. So the deal is not quite done yet, but sources are telling Deadline that I'm gonna mess up his name, so sorry if I do. But Sam Tariq, best known for directing Riz Ahmed in Mogul Mowgli, is in talks to be directing the new adaptation of Blade, who we know has been cast with Mahershala Ali in the lead. So going to the two of you, I know you guys are both fans of Blade. Going to Rocha first.
Mm-hmm.
This director have not done too much.
No.
But Marvel also, let's take this back to Chloe Zhao when she was cast, or sorry, she was tapped to direct the Eternals. She also hadn't won an Oscar and all that then. So I would like to think that Marvel know what they're doing when it comes to finding talented people to direct their films. Your thoughts on Tariq directing Blade?
Look, from what I read, this was a long process. They started it last year. Hearing people's pitches, hearing people's approaches to the character, which tells me that they are very invested in this character of Blade. They're very invested in getting the right interpretation, the right pitch, the right approach to it. And the fact that this gentleman stepped out from amongst all the choices speaks volumes to the pitch that he delivered. And this is what, the sixth director of color that is happening. Tessa Thompson said a few years ago that Feige assured her that the new Marvel, as it moves into this phase, will be much more diverse. And certainly they're putting, they're putting their casting or their hiring where their mouth is, and they're getting it done here. And I like it. I'm not sure how to feel about it because I didn't see his movie that a lot of people are talking. Mowgli, I think is what it is. But I think he's Pakistani American, I think. And so this opens the door to yet another interpretation, another point of view, another look at this. And I like it. And I'm excited. I mean, I love Blade to pieces. There are pieces of Blade Trinity I will support, not the whole film, but everything else in 1 and 2 I will like. But the pieces of Blade Trinity, there are moments. And so there's enough. And although I'll miss Wesley in the role, and I will miss Wesley Snipes in the role because he is my Blade, I'm curious to see what Mahershala Ali will do. A 2-time Oscar winner. I'm excited to see what he's going to bring to the role. And it sounds like, and I would imagine that this person wouldn't have been given the job if they hadn't got a little bit of the blessing from Mahershala Ali as well, since they're going to be working together to create this role.
Yeah, absolutely. Jamie, your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what John just said. I think that I also haven't seen the filmmaker's films, so I can't comment on that. But he's an international director.
Yes.
He is an independent director. It seems came from an independent background. I think that those are, as Marvel has shown, I think that those are attributes to directors that work very well, taking the next leap with Marvel. You could even make it a case for James Gunn, who had basically done Super and Slither and some of those smaller budget movies, jumps to Guardians. Wendy, you said Chloe Zhao. I'm blanking on his name, but the director of the Spider-Man movies, who's going to direct Fantastic Four. He had just done Stolen Car, Police Car.
No, John Watts.
John Watts. Thanks, John. Yeah, I mean, John Watts, who knew? No one even saw his first movie, and then he does Spider-Man. So,
you're right.
They know what they're doing when it comes to filmmakers. So I think this is a great choice. I agree. I'm sure Mahershala is a 2-time Oscar winner who came on, who hasn't done a lot of he hasn't cashed in much from the Oscars yet. You know what I mean? Movie star wise. Blade is going to be the big cash in. So for lack of a better term. And so I think, I'm sure that he was involved in this choice as well. And I'm glad to hear Marvel's taking Blade so seriously because I think, and I'd love to hear John's opinion of this, to speak to this, but, to me, Blade, I think X-Men gets a lot of credit, but Blade to me is the film that ushered in this 20 years we've had of superhero films, comic book adaptions leading the box office. I mean, it wasn't a huge box office hit at the time. It was a pretty big for, the scale of what it was. But it proved to people that, because we were coming off of Batman and Robin, right? Where it was just silly, superheroes are silly. And Blade kind of took the Matrix a little bit, took that, and I think it actually came out a year before the Matrix, but sort of took that aesthetic, the kind of the late 90s leather coolness.
Trench coat.
Yeah, and sort of, embraced it in a way and really showed the blueprint for X-Men and Spider-Man, a lot of the movies to come after. So I think in that sense, I think Feige and the brain trust over at Marvel probably has a lot of reverence for Blade. Not unlike, Howard the Duck and the way they've tried to, since that was the first Marvel movie, kind of bring that character back, and we're going to see him in What If. And I think there's a lot of push to get Blade right. And I'm still holding breath that not as Blade, but maybe in some role, cameo, or maybe he could play Whistler. Wesley Snipes comes back.
Oh. Now you got me excited.
I know Marvel's been talking to him. I know Marvel's talked to him.
Really?
Yeah.
I would love that.
Well,
yeah. Sorry, Wendy.
No. I was just agreeing.
Yeah. I was just going to say real quick what Jamie brought up, what he addressed to me. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, people talk about Superman 1978. Certainly I do. Christopher Reeve. Mm-hmm. That's a white man. Michael Keaton, 89. Batman. That's a white man. But then in the middle, the tail end of the 90s, you have an Asian man in Brandon Lee doing The Crow and Blade. I think both of those films showed you that you could take a more adult, more serious approach to comic book movies and that people would come see them. And remember, people sometimes get it twisted. Guillermo del Toro did not direct the first Blade. That was Stephen Norrington. He directed the second one. So it was big enough to attract a director like Guillermo del Toro to come, give it his chance, give it his point of view. And then he did Hellboy, which is a red-skinned guy. So I'm such a fan of what they were able to do. And then the X-Men came along. Then the Spider-Man films came along. But give some love to people of color in the 90s who were holding the fort down and kind of re-inspired people to look at comic book movies in a different way until we got the X-Men, until we got those other films. So great point, Jamie, to bring that up.
Yeah. So excited for the potential of Blade. I'm such a big fan of Mahershala Ali. I think my first time watching him was actually in Luke Cage when he played Cottonmouth.
Yes.
And as much as I love the whole cast and the story, for season 1, I kind of lost interest after Mahershala Ali's character came off the show.
Oh yeah.
And they made they're all snake names. Mariah, right? Yeah. For her to be the main, and she was great and all, but it just didn't have that. I'm going to use Rocha's word, gravitas. Heyo. So I'm so excited. I remember being at Comic-Con in Hall H, and it was like they kind of like just people were leaving because it was the end of the Marvel panel. People were like, I've been sitting for 8 hours. Like I got to get up. You're like your butt's numb, and he comes on stage, and I was like, what's he doing here? And it never occurred to me at all about Blade. So that announcement, I think I screamed so loud, like my throat was a little raw afterwards. But it's very, very exciting. I like that they are taking, putting a lot of thoughts into this, wanting to find the right director. I do love that they have, a very diverse bunch of directors in their upcoming films. Makes me really, really happy. I think that kind of gives us more, inclusivity, that representation that we're all looking for. So
yeah,
I'm behind Blade here. Yeah.
Do you remember a series called The 4400? They're actually going to do a remake of it coming this
4400.
fall. Yeah, it was a USA show in the early 2000s, but Mahershala was one of the stars of it. And that's where I first saw him. So he's been around for a long time.
He's been around a while. It's just, I just kind of found out about him later, much later.
I think it's with a plane, like the people disappear from the plane. Is that?
Wait, I do remember.
The plane, but it's the same idea. It's like half the world disappeared, or 4,400 people disappeared.
Yeah,
and then
I do remember
back,
that.
5 years later, or something like that. But yeah, that was where Mahershala came from. Was that series?
That sounds like Manifest.
It's the same. Yeah, Manifest, I think, took the same plot and put it on a plane. Yeah, that's exactly right.
We're going to get this right at one point.
Yeah. We'll put it on a plane and then,
put them on a plane, we'll disappear and put them on an island. We'll do Lost, for 5 6 seasons.
Yes.
Oh my God, I could talk about Lost forever. I both love it. I just love and hate that show.
Wendy, we should just do a whole Lost. We can just do go through season by season on one episode and just do a recap of every season. That'd be awesome.
I would have tapped out after season 4.
Oh, I like the time traveling season.
Yeah.
Is that season 4?
You gotta go back.
Season 5. Oh God,
yeah. The Constant. The Constant is the greatest episode of television.
Yep. Brian K.
We can just talk about that episode.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Look, we have thoughts. We have thoughts on Lost or Manifest or 4400. We've also got some thoughts on Snake Eyes and Masters of the Universe, which we're about to get to right now. If you enjoy this show, guys, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. If you want to subscribe to the channel so you can come back every Monday right here at 11 a.m. PT for Pop Council. And with that said, let's go ahead and dive right into a non-spoiler review for Snake Eyes. This opened just over the weekend, directed by Robert Schrenke. We see that Henry Golding is playing the lead Snake Eye with Andrew Koji playing his opposite part, Storm Shadow. Jamie, you got to see this in a drive-in. How was that experience?
So that was actually super cool. Yeah, it was the second time I'd ever been to drive-in in my life, first time in like 20 years. And yeah, it was actually really awesome. The experience was fun, and the movie was pretty good. I thought that as a standalone, almost like it reminded me a little bit of The Departed, but set in like the ninja world. And so, because sort of that kind of like double, not to give too much away, but there's some sort of double crossing and some kind of allegiance moving around. So as a standalone movie, I thought it was pretty good. As a G.I. Joe movie, it's not. And as a Snake Eyes movie, for me as a longtime fan, like, it's not a Snake Eyes movie. I thought some of the G.I. Joe stuff that was sprinkled in was good, was fine. There is a Yo Joe that was completely forced. I feel like that was even maybe like and the fact that they had gone so away from G.I. Joe in the whole movie to then force the Yo Joe line didn't make a whole lot of sense.
Right.
My biggest problem with the movie, two things. One is, imagine when Batman Begins came out, the movie ended when Christian Bale goes back to Gotham. Right. And we never saw Christian Bale wear the Batman costume. We would have been so pissed. I mean, are you kidding me? And that's what this movie does, right? They don't put him in the costume till literally the last frame of the movie. So that is, and I get holding off on the costume. It's an origin story, but we talked about this a couple weeks ago, Wendy, and we thought it would be at least in the third act.
I know, we were so excited because that suit looks sick in the trailer.
And now my other biggest problem with the movie, and it has to do with inclusion. Now, Henry was great, and great casting. I have no problem with any of that. But the problem is that this is also a character with a disability. And they completely washed over that. Now, I've heard them say we were saving it for the sequel, we're saving it for the third movie. Well, as we know, all three of us know quite well, and we certainly know after watching Jupiter's Legacy, like, you got to put it all in. You may not get a second chance.
Yeah.
You got to put it all in, and to sort of leave out such a crucial part of honestly what made that character really cool. There's not a lot of disabled superheroes. Now, someone might make the argument Snake Eyes is a superhero, but for all intents and purposes, let's just call him a superhero. Right. He's a comic book character. You know, you got Daredevil, you got Oracle we talked about, but that's kind of it. So to completely wash over that element and not even include it in the movie, even in the very end, like there's, again, not spoiler, but there's a point where a guy's got a sword to his throat, and I'm like, oh, here it comes. It's towards the it's in the last 10 minutes of the movie. I'm like, oh, here it is. And then or if he had just taken a vow of silence, maybe don't even do the injury, but take a vow of silence when you go after Storm Shadow at the end. I don't know. I think to completely take that element out seemed really, short-sighted from the filmmakers. And also the other comment I've heard about the film is that the action is very shaky cam and bad editing. I didn't quite feel that as much when I saw it, maybe because I was kind of prepared for that critique. But let's be honest, Robert, and I don't want to say his name wrong, Schwenke. I mean, he's a journeyman filmmaker at best. I mean, I like The Time Traveler's Wife, and my mom loves the Red movies. I know he directed one of the Red, I think the first one, if not
I think the first one.
Yeah, it was the first one. So, but I mean, he's not an auteur. I mean, I don't know what you expected. Like, you don't hire him. Marvel's not hiring him. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they're never going to hire him. He's not that type of filmmaker. He is a studio yes man, basically. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, but he works for the studios. He's not a true filmmaker in that sense. He's kind of a paint by numbers guy. So I don't know if he was the best choice for this either. And it doesn't surprise me some of the action is lacking.
Yeah. Rocha, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean,
on Snake Eyes.
Yeah, I echo a lot of what Jamie said for sure. I enjoyed the first 2/3 of the movie, and yes, because I went in going, yeah, it's not going to be because you don't cast Henry Golding and shut his mouth. You don't cast
Correct.
Henry Golding
Correct.
and cover his face up the whole time, or you don't cast Andrew Koji and cover his face up the whole time. So I went in going, okay, it says G.I. Joe origin, so let's start from the beginning. Let's see what we're going to get into here. But then they really don't do a lot of the origin of Snake Eyes. There's no combat veteran stuff involved in it. There's no real kind of, that was more his dad, right? And so, and then they give him this obsession to find the killer of a certain member of his family. I don't want to spoil it, but a certain member of his family and what that's all about. But then they jump in time and they never fill in the time. This is Jesus Christ missing those 17 years in the desert. Like, what happened? I want to know. And they don't even go back. There's no flashbacks, or even those old school Kung Fu movies, Kung Fu TV show had the flashbacks showing you all the stuff that was going on. So I thought for sure, because it would have some kind of homage to that, because that is a part of those martial arts films that we go back in time. Even Bloodsport had the back in time stuff with Jean-Claude Van Damme, and we didn't get any of that. We're just presented with a guy who's apparently really good at whatever weapon that's near his hands, including a sword, which we know takes forever to be good at. So there was just some issues with that. I did like their relationship. I did like their chemistry. But really, Haruka Abe is the one that stood out for me.
She's as great.
Akiko, right?
With Akiko,
Akiko.
I agree,
she is
John.
the treasure in the movie.
Yep.
She is the find. She is the one that when you walk out of that movie, you should be casting her in anything that you have a project on, right? And so I liked that aspect of it all. But you're right, Jamie. I was so surprised that they fumbled the last third of the movie. That is the movie that if you're going to make a G.I. Joe movie, the last third is where you got to really make it count, because people will forgive you for the 2/3 that you don't 100%. But if you give them a great last third of the movie, people will come away with that because they knew going in that it wasn't going to be this incredible film. Just make sure I enjoy that last third and I'll be happy. And they blew it. They really, you had one line, again, no spoilers. You had one line where someone literally says, hey, he's on our side now. And it's why? Why are you saying that line? So those are those issues. And yes, some of the jumpy shooting and cutting, all of that was a little irritating I thought I was watching a Transformers film, and I like those films, but I don't want to see it in a Snake Eyes movie. And you're right. The ending, there should have been something a little bit more, but Henry Golding did a fantastic job. Koji did a fantastic job. It's not my Storm Shadow, but his version of Storm Shadow was still interesting to connect to. But the way they shoehorn the G.I. Joe stuff, I said it in my review, and I'll say it again here, and maybe I'll take some crap for it. I didn't feel like Samara Weaving or the actress who played Baroness were good in those roles. And it may just be because they were very limited. The writing wasn't that great. And they felt like they were shoehorned into this plot rather than an organic flow into the story and an organic flow out of the story. So maybe if they do a sequel, we'll get Samara Weaving and the other actress more screen time, so they'll be settled into the roles. But I didn't buy them as Scarlet and Baroness in any way, shape, or form. So that kind of affected my enjoyment of the film as well.
Yeah, and I want to add one more thing about Henry. I love Henry Golding. I think he's an amazing actor. I think he's going to be an incredible movie star. If he's not already considered a movie star, he's definitely got that quality. And I liked what he did with what he was given. I just don't think it was a good marriage of the actor and the character. I think that it was the wrong actor to play that character. I think the character he played was great, but it wasn't Snake Eyes. And quite frankly, you need to probably cast a stunt actor to be, you don't want to get the big movie star and then it's sort of like what Carl Urban did in Dread, and to really embrace, like, I'm going to just wear the helmet the whole time. So I think it was sort of a waste of his talent in a sense. But I really like Henry. I have nothing wrong with Henry's casting. I just think it wasn't the right marriage with the character, with what the character needs to be.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of you guys' points. I think for me, and you guys kind of already said it, and I said this in my review too, I thought that they showed too much, yet not enough. You know what I'm saying? We got all these extra stuff. You're talking about, like, the entrance of Scarlet. And I felt as much as I really liked the both of them in the movie, and specifically in the third act, I really liked the ladies. I felt Scarlett's entrance felt a little shoehorned in, where I feel Baroness was a little bit more organic.
That was more believable. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a little bit more, but with Scarlett, just because I felt like she was rarely in the same room with the other actors.
Right.
You know, which I would have liked to see more interaction, you know, from her with the Arashikage clan, and also kind of to John's point, saying that, like, you know, we go from young Snake Eyes to full grown Snake Eyes, you know, with the heart, with vengeance in his heart, which I get, and then like how did he get mixed in with the clan, with Fish, and, you know, being nicknamed Fish Boy by Storm Shadow himself, to we didn't get any sort of a montage period. Like, did he grow up fighting in the streets? Right. You know, to survive. And then when we got to Arashikage, it's like, you have the 3 challenges. And then we got like one, like, up the wall training sequence. Right. And it was like, just, I was like, here's the montages. I love montages, like in superhero movies. I'm like, yes, this is going to be great. And then it was just that. And I was, you know, and I'm not saying every movie needs to have, like, you know, flashy action and all this and that, but this is G.I. Joe we're talking about here. Right. You know, and the trailer made it feel like we, as the audience, we were going to get lots of really awesome action, and there were some, and also the movie was fine. I enjoyed it very much, because I went in kind of having that understanding of like, this was the origin of Snake Eyes here, but this is this movie's origin of Snake Eyes. So knowing that going in, I was kind of like, okay, let's just go with that, because I can fight it, but this is still is what the movie is going to show me anyway. So why fight it? Instead, just enjoy the 2 hours. So the shaky cam, very close up frame for me in any action film, I think that works in small amounts to emphasize certain things. We saw it used in, I want to say, like Winter Soldier utilized that, but not throughout the whole film. You know, you cast actors like Andrew Koji, like Iko Uwais from The Raid, who have phenomenal martial arts skills, and then you kind of cut away very quickly. And I was like, no, let it breathe, let it live, please. So yeah, I was disappointed by the action, and this is very much a setup movie. Like at the end of the movie, we're like, oh, we're not even there yet. Like, we're gonna get now Storm Shadow origin before we get into everything else. Yeah. So, well, all right, you guys. Yeah. So go ahead.
Go ahead, John.
I was just going to say, you know, at some point you can't, I think I was going to touch on Jamie's point earlier. You can't assign a director like Robert Schwenke to a piece like this and then expect you're going to get a mind-bending, groundbreaking film that's going to revitalize your franchise. At some point, you got to understand how important directors are, and you got to shell the money out for that director, or don't come crying in the trades or in the press that it was the movie critics or the people, you know, they didn't get it. Bullshit. You went cheap, and when you go cheap, this is what you get when you go cheap. So don't complain about it and be honest about your approach to things. It frustrates me sometimes at the studios when they go cheap themselves and then expect the critics to fall all over themselves. Right. And when they don't, get mad at the critics. Like, no. And someone just pointed out that, this Yash guy who's been leaving messages, like shaky cam, it isn't in Black Widow. It is, but just like anything else in life, if you use it correctly, it works. When you don't, it doesn't, Yash. That's the difference between film criticism and criticizing the film critics. I just want to make sure that's clear. All right.
John fighting the good fight. Well, I just wanted to add that based on this box office this weekend, it doesn't look like there's going to be any more G.I. Joe films in a while. And certainly not on this G.I.
What's the numbers?
14.2 or something like that. Below old. If you can't beat old and you're a tentpole picture, that is a small horror film. You can't beat old, you're in trouble. Big trouble. I fear
that the future of the G.I. Joe franchise will be an animated He-Man-esque cartoon on Amazon in the next 5 years, or possibly maybe a live action series, but Paramount is not going to go do another film of this anytime soon.
Which is so infuriating, because like I'm always rooting for Henry Golding. I'm always rooting for you know, Andrew Koji and all the actors. Like this, I don't want to blame the actors for this. They did their job. Their job was to act and tell a story, and they did their job.
I don't think they're going to take any blame for. I don't think Snake Eyes bombing hurts Henry Golding's career.
No.
At all.
He's a star already. Yeah, they're all stars already. But
the G.I. Joe franchise is going to go away.
It just, that suit looked so good. Like we had it on, I was so impressed. I was like, dang, and I was mad that it was at the end, you know. And I was like, even though I thought this movie was just okay, like I was willing to put my money for the next one because I wanted to see potentially. There's a lot of potential with G.I. Joe where it was going to go, and now we may not. I don't know. Look, fingers crossed, but maybe we get G.I. Joe movies like TV series instead. Who knows?
Yeah,
Who knows? No, Paramount Plus.
That's right.
Yeah, right. Paramount Plus, exactly.
Yeah, and
You
real
guys-
quick.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Samara Weaving, Ursula Corbetto, they are good actresses, fantastic
Yes.
actresses. And I just want to reiterate that. I'm not saying they're terrible. Like I'm saying the roles they were given, there wasn't enough there for them to really show their talents. And yes, Wendy,
Agreed.
the intro, who randomly picks a fight with Scarlett in the airport, 4 guys, no real reason, just to show you she's a badass. It's a cop out in screenwriting to do that, to reinforce how much of a badass a character is. So yeah.
It was the Black Widow scene from Avengers.
Yeah,
that's all that was. It was the Black Widow scene from
It
Avengers.
was.
minus the chair.
Without the
She had the
inspiration.
suitcase
for it.
instead.
Yeah.
She had the suitcase instead. Oh boy. You guys, we got a few minutes left. I really want to jump into very quickly our thoughts on Masters of the Universe. It's a very easy binge, 5 episodes, about a half hour each. So, Rocha, let's go to you first. I don't know how far you got. I got to like 2.53 middle. I'm halfway through. It's actually paused on my TV screen right now, so I'm going to run back out and watch it before I leave for the Jungle Cruise because I want to see what's up. So your thoughts on Masters of the Universe Part 1?
I think it's a very challenging show. That's what I'll say. And I think
Some of the complaints I understand. Now, some of the more fanboy, I'm butthurt about complaints, I don't. But some of the legitimate narrative storytelling complaints here, I think are valid. You know, the fact that you don't see the two main characters who you purposely put in your trailer to attract people to come see your show. We see certain things happen to them and they get sidelined for majority of the season, or at least this first half of the season, I think is a big mistake. And I think not telling people ahead of time that that was going to be there, you set yourself up for this kind of reaction. You set yourself up for people. That being said, really loving the voiceover work, love the animation. I like the gutsiness of the decision to make it focus on one certain character, that being Tila. I wanted to see just a little bit more of a layered approach to why this was happening. Not just, you lied to me, therefore I'm angry, I'm out of here. You got to give me something more than that. People lie all the time, even in that kingdom, I'm sure. And that's part of it. And I'm sure Tila's lied a few times in her life as well. So I'm just saying this, it's felt like not as strong enough of a reason. And at times I did feel like some of the male characters were a bit emasculated here. And I want to see finally a show that goes powerful women and powerful men coming together, doing the things. I don't like to see where men are always sacrificed in order to elevate the women. I want to see where you can elevate the women, still make the men pay, but also keep the men as strong as they can be. So these are the things that my mind is changing about that more and more as I see more and more of this kind of content. That being said, this is very watchable, hell of an enjoyable watch for sure. And I can't wait to finish it. I'm in the top of episode 4. I want to see what more we get as it goes along. Yeah, I admit I admire the gutsiness. I just think they should have been more upfront about it. And I kind of blame Netflix a little bit for not letting Kevin Smith or the people involved in it to tell you the truth of what the show was going to be. Because we also don't know, as Jamie mentioned, what the back half 5 episodes are going to be. So
I'm very curious about how that's going to play out.
Yeah.
And with that, Jamie, your thoughts?
Yeah, I loved it. I will say that I was slightly disappointed that it was only 5. Like, I thought there was like a full 10 at once.
We could have easily binged 10, yes.
5 leaves on a big cliffhanger, so it makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. I don't disagree with really anything John said. I like the route that the show went, basically getting rid of its 2 marquee characters for most of these first 5 episodes. The only, that's very daring. They did a He-Man series without He-Man and Skeletor. And so I think that was very daring. And I think it left a lot of room to really discover these other characters. I agree. I think the voice acting is great. I love what they did with Tila, but especially Evil Lynn. That's Lena Headey doing her. I think Lena Headey, and as limited as it is in these first 5, Mark Hamill as Skeletor are the 2 voices that I walk away with, and I'm like, oh my God, amazing. I think I think that they're also betting that this audience is going to be the adult audience of kids, that as kids we watch this, right? So you don't need for us a lot of setup, but I feel like I was thinking while I was watching it, like, what about my best friend's 8-year-old son? Mm-hmm. He would love this, but it's going to be hard for, like, if there had been 2 episodes before Adam and He-Man go away. Do you know what I mean? Like, spend a little bit more time in the beginning setting up for the new audience who Adam and He-Man are, who Skeletor is. They kind of like breezed right through that in the first episode. And so when what happens, I kind of feel like for a new audience, for all of us, we know He-Man, we know Adam, we know all that, so it's cool. But I feel like for a new audience, it would have been nice to have a little bit more time in Eternia before it becomes
fast-forwarding into...
Well, it basically becomes Nightmare Eternia, right? It's basically Zack Snyder's Nightmare Eternia. So that's interesting too.
Don't you start that. Don't you start
But that's interesting too. I liked that. I loved that. But I think you need a little bit of more setup with it. And the other thing I just want to mention real quick was I can't really know if this claim is true or not, but I feel like I was the first kid in America to have a He-Man toy because I was literally at a Toys R Us with my mom looking for an Aquaman action figure in like 1979 or 1980. And I saw the guy opening this box and I was like, what are those? And it was like the first time. So I had He-Man toys long before the cartoon happened, before the comics started coming. So when the cartoon happened, Orko was not an original. Orko was created for the cartoon and then eventually had toys and all that. So as a kid, I always felt Orko was like a cheap comedy, the kind of, and probably was kind of the thing that, an 80s TV executive, like, we need something for the kids, and kind of stuck Orko in there. So I do have to say that I feel like Kevin Smith redeemed Orko to a degree where he's not in this just like, he's still a little annoying, but he's not as annoying as he used to be. And you also have some sympathy for the character. So I very much like the adult themes and the women taking the forefront and really exploring the world of even Nightmare Eternia, exploring that world and these characters. I don't mind the direction that they went. I just think they needed a little bit more setup for new audiences.
Mm-hmm.
No, I agree with both of your points a lot. I didn't feel like I was like quote unquote lied to about like He-Man not being there, because that rumor was kind of floating or circling for a little while, especially right after first trailer drop. People were saying this like in my comments, and I was like, how do you guys know this already? So sort of knowing that going in when you're expecting it, you don't mind it, but also from what I've seen so far, it makes me feel like with Tila's mission and what she's going to do now, where I am in episode 3, like I can kind of imagine what part 2 could look like. Mm-hmm. And that has me very, very excited, because this, like you guys said, we kind of didn't get enough background story for those of us who grew up with He-Man and She-Ra and all that stuff. Like, we it's in our head. But for the younger kids who may want to watch this, like we have to pause and explain, like, okay, Prince Adam, and this is how it happens. And we didn't get to. It was very, very quick, like like episode 1.5 of Prince Adam / He-Man, and that was it. Now we're on to Tila's story and her path. But I do, I'm really, really enjoying the animation, the fighting style. I kind of like the twist of like, no magic for Tila, and she's just like mad. She doesn't believe in it anymore, and she's all about technology. And so it's teaming up with Andra, who is an engineer. I thought that was really cool to bring in, in a world in Eternia, a character who is like straight up engineer. I think that's really cool. So I will go ahead and finish this series. And maybe we can talk about it again before, part 2 comes out later on. We've gone a little over, so we're going to go ahead and wrap up our show here. John Rocha, thank you so much for hanging out with us today.
Thank you very much.
All of your takes. You've been super busy. Tell everybody where they can find you in everything that you do.
Okay, you always find me at The Rocha Says on Twitter and on Instagram. If you want to hang out with me on Twitch, The Outlaw Nation, all one word there. I got almost 500 followers, so come and follow me there. I'm doing watch-alongs.
Wow.
I'm doing play-alongs. Come and be a part of the Twitch there. Also, my podcasts, The Cinephiles, The Top 10, and the Geek Buddies all happening. And of course, my channel, The Outlaw Nation, youtube.com/John Rocha says. That's where the Outlaw Nation is, or just type in the Outlaw Nation John Rocha. I'll come up, trust me. And going over there and see all this stuff. We're doing more trailer reactions, more reviews. It's all happening. And yeah, constantly busy, but I love it. I'm a blue collar boy, so working is all I know, and I love it. So thank you for having me on today. It was always great to see you guys. Always great to come back. So thank you very much.
Of course. And thank you so much for your time and your knowledge. Jami, where can everybody find you everywhere?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Philbrick or Facebook at Jami Philbrick.
And you can find me just at my name, Wendy Lee Zaney, on Twitter, Instagram, over at the Movie Couple channel on YouTube. And of course, you guys, thank you so much for tuning into today's show. We have so many other shows right here as a part of the HCA network. We have Tomorrow the Long Box, hosted by Tessa and Jonita at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, 8 a.m. PT. They got a really cool episode coming up tomorrow, so make sure you tuned in for that. Wednesdays, we've got Horrifically Horrifying with Heather Wixon and Kevin Taft. What to Stream comes out on Thursdays at 11 a.m. PT, hosted by Morgan Rojas. And of course, every Friday, What's Trending in Hollywood with Mr. Scott Menzel. We're out of here, you guys. Thank you so much. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and we will see you soon. Bye, everybody.